Nowadays, it seems like new AI technologies are popping up everywhere. And whether you like it or not, AI is not going anywhere anytime soon. If you want to learn how to live with AI and maximize your productivity, you first have to understand what exactly AI is. In broader terms, artificial intelligence is a simulation of human intelligence processed by machine. However, most of what comes to mind when you think of artificial intelligence is really categorized under machine learning, still a form of AI. The definition of machine learning is really self-explanatory. Having a machine learn to do a task without being explicitly programmed to do so. Now let's explore what machine learning is and how it's created. Overall, there are two main machine learning techniques. The first technique being known as unsupervised learning. With every machine learning technique, there is something called a training model. In the instance of unsupervised learning, the training model includes just a lot of data. This data can include images, text, audio, and others. With unsupervised learning, the AI automatically groups together data with similar traits. And then, once the AI is fully trained and you input your own data, it will categorize your data amongst the data that it already has. Imagine if you wanted to create an unsupervised learning model that was able to categorize every single person in your camera roll. The training data for this model would simply be all of the photos within your camera roll. Given a sufficient amount of photos, because in AI, the more data, the better. Your AI model will be able to categorize your photos based on the facial features and people involved within those images. Now, if you enter a new photo of someone already in your camera roll, it'll automatically group that photo along with the existing photos of that same person. If you open up your camera roll on your iPhone and look at people, that's the exact thing that your phone is doing. Now, moving away from unsupervised models, the second type of machine learning model is known as supervised training. This training model has some sort of data, just like an unsupervised model. However, the difference between the two is that supervised models also have a description to go along with that data. Going back to that camera roll example, that would be just like throwing in all of your photos into the training model. But this time, instead of having them unlabeled, you label each image with the person that's in that photo. Once you've trained your model on the photos and the people inside of those photos, if you have a new photo of someone already in your training data, your AI will automatically output the name associated with the image you just uploaded. Within supervised learning, there are also two types of techniques that you can use. These techniques are known as regression and classification. Let's use another example to help you understand regression versus classification a little bit better. Let's imagine I was someone looking to create an AI that can predict the price of a house. And let's also imagine that I have a bunch of images of houses and the prices associated with those houses. Just like the camera roll example, my data would be all those images of those houses. And the description associated with that data would be the price of those houses. As an example, my piece of data that I'm uploading to the AI would be this house over here. And the description to go along with it would be $1,000. Another piece of data going into this training model would be this image of a house. And the description would be $30,000. When the model is fully trained and I enter this image of a home, I would most likely receive an output of $16,000. This is because the AI was able to draw conclusions between the price of the home and the size of the home, finding a median between those two and assessing the home I uploaded as $16,000, right in between our training data. This is an example of regression, where the output is a sliding numerical value. On the other hand, let's imagine a scenario where I'm a parent of two twins, and for the life of me could not distinguish the two. What I would have to do is create a supervised training model, with the data being the images of the child and the description being the name of that child in that specific image. Now with the AI fully trained on a bunch of photos of my twins and the name of that specific twin in that image, all I would have to do is take a photo of one of them, and the AI would be able to classify that image as being twin 1 or twin 2. As opposed to being a sliding scale numerical value like regression, you can consider classification more of a categorizing of your data, whether it fits into this category or whether it fits into that category. Now, going deeper into supervised learning, there's also this subset called neural networks, something you may have heard of. Neural networks, hence the name, are loosely based around our brain and how neurons communicate. However, as opposed to neurons, neural networks operate based on something called nodes. Each node is distributed into layers and interconnected between the next layer. There are also certain values associated with each individual node. These values include a weight and an input. Each individual node is responsible for a certain attribute of the input. Before the neural network is fully trained, each node has a randomized weight. The input first goes from the first layer of nodes, and a calculation is made on that input based on the weights. Then that input is passed to the next layer of nodes, and another calculation is made. After a lot of training, the weights of each individual node are determined and are able to correlate a piece of data into a desired output. So on the topic of AI, you may be wondering, how does Chat-GPT work? Well, GPT stands for Generated Pre-trained Transformer, which in simpler terms is known as a large language model, or LLM. Large language models are essentially neural networks trained on massive amounts of data. That massive amounts of data is text. Think of it as essentially a neural network trained on all parts of the internet. Using the neural network operations that I outlined before, ChatGPT's large language model, known as GPT-4, is able to assess a meaning behind each word that you prompt it with. Sort of like with a newborn baby. At first, their brain isn't able to associate meaning behind everything that you tell them. But slowly over time, with more experience, or in this scenario, training data, these neurons, or in this scenario, nodes, are able to connect and have meaning behind each word. And not only this, but large language models can be trained on any language. This is why ChatGPT can answer your questions in any language. And believe it or not, this is also why you can translate your text from English to any language you want using Google Translate. They're both using LLMs. However, as you can imagine, there are so many complexities associated with every single language. So then, how can ChatGPT form perfectly coherent sentences? And if I asked it to, how could ChatGPT write like Shakespeare or completely make up a story? This understanding of the complexities of human language is based around the massive training data associated with GPT-4, the large language model behind ChatGPT. How much data exactly? Well, GPT-4 is based on 45 terabytes of text, meaning that it's trained on pretty much everything on the internet. It understands how humans communicate, how to write a formalized essay, and how to write like Shakespeare. Well, how does it form these sentences? And how can it finish my sentence? To be quite honest, in my previous explanations, I've been lying. I've been calling ChatGPT understanding language. In fact, it's something a lot more interesting. Based around its large language model, ChatGPT is able to begin with one word and then come up with the likelihood of what word would come next. As an example, if I type into ChatGPT, a computer is, the first word that ChatGPT would be looking at would be is. From there, the AI would look at its massive catalog of language and determine the likelihood of the next word that comes most often after the word is. You may be asking the question though, if ChatGPT keeps doing this for every single word that it outputs, wouldn't that ultimately result in the same exact answer? No. ChatGPT also has another factor that it looks at, based around the relevancy to the question that you ask. It won't just look at the likelihood of the next word. ChatGPT also has a randomization added to the likelihood of the next word. And that's why, if you ask ChatGPT the same question twice, you'll most likely get different results. As you can imagine, large language models open up so many fields of study. This one nonprofit, named the Earth Species Project, is actually developing a large language model that will enable humans to communicate with and understand animals. Think about how crazy that is. Like on some Doolittle stuff. They're taking catalog of vocalizations of crows, whales, monkeys, and other animals. However, like I mentioned, GPT-4, the large language model behind ChatGPT, was trained on 45 terabytes of data. So this nonprofit has a lot of work to do and a lot of data to collect. However, imagine the possibilities. Imagine a world where there is no language barrier between species of animals. Maybe then flies would be able to convince me not to swat at them.
Now you stay right there. Give me your sweat. Give me your sweet sweat, please. Give me your sweat. Stay there. Give me your sweat.
The fact is that AI has come such a long way since its first example back in 1952. And that's a reason for optimism, but also a reason for concern. I know it's been in the back of your mind since you had your first conversation with ChatGPT. Is artificial intelligence gonna take over humanity? The fact is, we have no clue. With so many new AI technologies advancing so rapidly, it's really easy to get swept away and how many doors this opens up for humanity. We also need to understand the risk that AI poses to our society at large. Giving AI access to human conversation online also means that it has the worst parts of humanity built into it. Our biases, our violence, and every other dark side of humanity. While it may be fun to innovate and test new AI technologies at a rapid pace, maybe it's not the safest thing to do. Currently, researchers don't even understand how the AIs that they built determine a certain outcome. This is a gigantic security flaw. Humanity cannot continue to integrate AI into all aspects of our life without even understanding why it does what it does. If we want to continue to interact with AI, safer measures need to be taken. And humanity needs to foster a greater knowledge of how exactly AI works. And the first step is educating each other on what we know. While AI opens up so many doors of opportunity, in order to safely take those opportunities and achieve an enhanced human experience, we first have to understand at a deeper level how AI algorithms work. We'll see you on Saturday for a more in-depth conversation on AI. We hope you learned something new on this week's fact-based video on Teens Teach. If you did, share it with someone you know, because knowledge withheld deteriorates, but knowledge spread proliferates. Have a good one.
Now you stay right there. Give me your sweat. Give me your sweet sweat, please.